So chat, we've got some news regarding Keffals, the streamer known as Keffals. And this is actually some interesting news. I remember seeing this like cross my path when it was first tweeted and thinking like, holy shit, that's pretty insane. I'm going to actually read the tweets to you guys. And I'm going to give you my thoughts on this whole situation as we go along. But let's go ahead and let's just dive right into the tweets. These were tweeted out on February 21st. Like I said, I'm a little bit late to the game on this one, but I did want to cover it and, just kind of give my thoughts. So Keffals tweeted out the following. In the next few days, I will be admitted to rehab. The doctor said that because of the drugs I'm addicted to, without medical supervision, detoxing will kill me. I will be off social media for 30 to 45 days while I work on getting better. Thank you to all my friends and fans and supporters for staying by my side and for all the kind words. To all the people who were harmed by my actions, I am deeply sorry. I'm making a commitment to work towards being a better person. I don't want to let anyone down. My YouTube channel will still be active, but I have no involvement. My editors are going through old streams to ensure the channel stays active in my absence. And I have seen that. They're continuing to upload content to the channel on their behalf. I love you all. I am a hurt person who was hurting other people, and I think it's time for me to break this cycle. They also went on to elaborate a little bit more in a quote tweet. One last thing. Sorry about my erratic behavior and anyone who has felt hurt by my actions. I do not expect any apologies. I'm getting help first and foremost for myself because I want to be a better person. They also stated, I worded this wrong. I do not expect anyone to accept my apology, but I am going to give 100% to be a better person and to beat my addiction. Thank you all for your kind words, emails, and DMs. Okay, so that's basically what they put out on Twitter. And this was like shocking for a lot of people, right? This was shocking for a lot of people because like, I don't think anybody knew. Maybe her inner circle knew, but I don't think anybody outside of her inner circle knew that Keffals had this like addiction problem. I know that there had been talks of her having addiction problems in the past, but I don't think a lot of people knew that this was still a thing. And my understanding, I could be totally wrong about this. So if anybody in the chat knows otherwise, correct me if I'm wrong. But I have seen some people on social media saying that apparently the addiction in question is in relation to cocaine. She had a cocaine addiction, right? And I know what a lot of people are expecting. There are a lot of people are probably expecting me to like have a laugh at their expense and shit on them and stuff like that. Anybody who's expecting me to do that obviously doesn't know me. Addiction is a hard thing to deal with, right? I've had people who've dealt with addiction in my family, uncles of mine who've had drug addiction. My dad had an alcohol addiction, which is funny because I always said that I would never fall into the trap that my dad did. And then I got an alcohol addiction. I've talked about this before. So to anybody who doesn't know about that, yes, I've talked about the fact that I had an alcohol addiction. More specifically, my issues with alcohol stemmed from me being in a very dark place mentally, mental health wise. And rather than seeking treatment for my mental health problems, I turned to alcohol. I would use alcohol to kind of like numb my pain, I guess you could say, right? And so oftentimes what I would do is I would go through like, a pretty decent sized bottle of high proof liquor, every 2 days. So I'd get myself like, usually it was whiskey or tequila or something like that. I'd get myself a bottle of something. It would last me 2 days. And then, on the third day, I'd have to buy another bottle. Right. And just the cycle repeated. And like, it wasn't a very healthy way to deal with my depression. I spent a lot of money on alcohol doing that shit. And, lucky for me, I was able to beat my addiction. Now I have a healthy relationship with alcohol where like, I can have a drink from time to time to have fun. Sometimes we do the shot streams and we can have some fun doing those. And I don't fall into the trap, right, of, getting back into that lifestyle. But before that, it was rough. I was like in a really bad place and I was handling a lot of my mental health stuff in a very unhealthy way. You know what I'm saying? Now the thing about addiction is like, even when you beat it, the struggle is still there every single day. It doesn't matter how long you've been sober. the temptation is always there. I can even admit with me, sometimes if I'm like really depressed or something like that, the temptation to grab a bottle and go to town, it's a very real thing, So while I have been critical of Keffals in the past, of many things, and while I still stand by some of those criticisms that I've had for Keffals in the past, I can have a lot of empathy for someone who's struggling with addiction. Addiction is just one of those things that, everybody thinks that like, oh, just don't, engage in addictive behavior and you'll be fine. But the thing is like, so many people fall victim to addiction that like, it's the people you least expect. Like I said, with me, I used to watch my dad struggle with alcohol addiction, and I used to be like, oh, I'm not going to be like my dad. And I still fell into it. So even the people you like least expect to fall into addiction, habits, they totally can. It's so easy to fall into that trap. So it's one of those things where I genuinely do have some level of empathy for her, and I hope she beats the addiction. Now, one thing I will say is in regards to the GoFundMe, she had this very popular GoFundMe where she got over $100,000 donated to her, right? She's already had a lot of scrutiny directed at her for this GoFundMe and, basically criticism that she hasn't been fully transparent with how this money is being spent. Originally, some of the funds were supposed to go to like a lawsuit against the the police department that, swatted her and stuff like that. There were claims of them misgendering her and stuff like that. And so originally that was the plan for some of the money, was to sue the police department that swatted her. And I don't think anything's happening with that now. But there's been a lot of criticism. My point is there's been a lot of criticism about how this money is being used. And so some people have started speculating that she used that money for her drug addiction. Now, I can understand where people are coming from with that. Personally, I'd rather not jump to conclusions. But is it possible? Yeah, it's very possible that she probably used some of the money from this for her drug addiction, okay? So, I understand that, but I'm not going to jump to that conclusion. But one thing I will say is that, again, she's already been under scrutiny for this GoFundMe. She's already been under scrutiny for it. And she's about to be under a hell of a lot more scrutiny for it. She's going to have to be a hell of a lot more transparent about what's happening with this money. Thank you very much for that membership. I do appreciate it. She's going to have to be a hell of a lot more transparent now than ever because of this drug addiction thing. Because people are going to want to know, did you spend some of the money on your drug addiction? If not, what is happening with the money? And I think that anybody who donated to this GoFundMe has every right to know the answer to those questions, right? I wouldn't be upset with anybody who gave her money in this GoFundMe if they were like kind of like grilling her a little bit, like what's going on with the money, right? What did you do with the money? Did you spend some of the money on drugs? Like, I think that everyone who donated to this has every right to ask those questions. So that's one thing that Keffals is going to have to keep in mind, is that yes, people are going to start asking questions about that money even more than they already have. So while I do have empathy for Keffals when it comes to the addiction shit, these are questions people are going to have, and you have to be prepared to answer those questions. And if it is a case of some of the money got spent on drugs, you have to be prepared to be honest about that. Just own it. Like, hey, like, yes, I did this and it's wrong and I'm sorry. You know what I mean? So I guess we'll have to wait and see how this turns out. I wish her nothing but the best on her recovery. But yeah, people are going to start questioning you even more about the GoFundMe. So you better be ready for that. It's coming for sure.